Hello and welcome back to ETNAtalks, the podcast where culture, care, and compassion meet. I am your host, Juan Leiva, joining you from the Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona in Spain. Today, we are taking a journey that spans thousands of kilometers and two completely different worlds. We are heading to the edge of the Arctic Circle in Oulu, Finland, to speak with a guest who embodies the very definition of the global north. We are joined by Dr. Floro Cubelo. Originally from the Philippines, Dr. Cubelo has navigated the transition from the tropics to the Nordic healthcare system firsthand. Now, as a senior lecturer at Oulu University of Applied Science and a distinguished fellow of the European Transcultural Nursing Association, he dedicates his research to solving one of the biggest challenges in Europe today. How do we not just recruit international nurses, but actually help them thrive? He's an expert on the clinical learning environment, a champion for mentorship, and a fearless voice against the silent barriers of hierarchy and discrimination in the world. Dr. Floro Cubelo, welcome to ETNAtalks.
Hi, Juan. It's nice to be here in ETNAtalks. Finally, I'm invited to speak about a really important topic.
It is. And thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your expertise. Floro, let's start with your incredible personal journey. You moved from the Philippines to Finland. That is not just a change of temperature. It's a massive shift in culture, in communication, and many other things. Beyond the weather, what was your biggest cultural shock you experienced when you first stepped into Finnish hospital work? And how did that moment shape the researcher you are today?
Hmm. Yeah, you know, when people ask about my journey from the Philippines to Finland, I always smile because it wasn't really a simple journey. It was a long, some sort of an arc of hope and paperwork and
Yeah.
confusion and also discovery. And I arrived with so many aspirations. I was too young, but at the same time too ambitious. And honestly, I was amazed by Finland because if you look at the nature, you can see the calmness and how things work within the country. And
Yes.
I remember stepping out of the airport thinking, wow, life can be this really quiet because totally different culture in the Philippines and Finland. In the Philippines, you can hear so many noise every day, and when I
Yes.
arrived to Finland, totally silent.
Brilliant.
So and also during winter times, wow, life can be this really cold. And we just talked before we started this ETNAtalks that temperature can go as low as -25 to
Mm,
-30 during winter times. But what many people don't know is that my path here was not really linear because that is what almost mostly people try to understand my journey. It wasn't really easy. Even though I was already a registered nurse in the Philippines, I had to go through uh, a journey that took me across, for example, Vietnam for the entrance examinations to get into the University of Applied Sciences. And then I went to Malaysia for my residence permit. And I sometimes even joke that my Finnish story began in three other countries before I saw a snowflake. And once I was finally accepted to study nursing here, it felt pretty surreal. I came in ready to be a student again. I was ready to learn the Finnish social healthcare system, but also unsure how my background would be treated. So would they see my previous experience or would I have to start from zero? So, and one of the most memorable cultural shocks came on my first week at university. I walked in with my Filipino upbringing, you know, that deeply ingrained calling teachers and people in high authorities, for example, ma'am and sir, and we used to tell them like that. And it's automatic for us. It's how we also show respect to them. But they simply said that, please call me by my first name. And at first I thought, are you sure? Are you really sure? And
Yes.
it felt almost on my part disrespectful if I call them the first names, but I get used to it, and I call them with the first name in the long run. And titles actually can create walls, but when I get used to calling them with first names, it felt like I was also part of the community. And when I started my journey as a nursing student, so I was already a registered nurse in the Philippines. So I just need to, I mean, I underwent the recognition of prior learning with the head of the degree program. And that changed everything for me because of the RPL. I studied for less than a year. And it wasn't just a shortcut, it was actually an affirmation.
Uh-huh.
Like my previous background in the Philippines was actually recognized in Finland.
Oh, good.
And it's like saying that, okay, you have the knowledge already, so you just need to go and learn the Finnish way. So I went to the clinical practicum uh, to understand the healthcare system, and then
Mm-hmm.
I graduated after a year. And then that actually shaped how I work today with internationally educated nurses from outside the European Union and European Economic Area, so EU, EEA
Yeah.
countries. And I know first how much it really matters when someone truly sees the competence you've built over years, and also the things that you learn in your home country,
Mm.
and not just what country it came from. And then when I was starting to work already in the clinical environment, and I noticed actually that there were only few uh, nurses of foreign background or international educated nurses. And I thought that why is that so? Why is that so? Why is
Yeah.
it so that there are only few of us working in the, for example, primary healthcare services or specialist medical care? And then that where I started looking for universities where I could probably uh, find a master's degree that will really help me answer the question. So I applied to the master's degree program in public health at the University of Eastern Finland, and we had the option to which direction we wanted to follow. So I followed the nursing science field. And so I studied about the experiences of Filipino internationally educated
Mm.
nurses. So and I studied the challenges that they had, because I remember way back 20 was it in 2011, I heard in the news that they have recruited Filipino nurses to become registered nurses in a university hospital. And if you research about the current state of Filipino nurses here, or other internationally educated nurses, they usually start as nursing assistants. And
Mm.
I said that can we learn from the history? So I studied those groups who were recruited to become registered nurses instead of nursing assistants. So that is where it all started, actually. It was out of curiosity, I should say, and also the experiences and observations I had when I worked as a registered nurse. So
It
I
is.
could say it was like that. Yeah.
Wow, it is amazing. It is amazing, and and for sure it has to be pretty challenging and difficult. I remember also myself when I stayed in Houston for a postdoctoral period of time, and I remember also as well myself being called Dr. Leiva, which is very unusual here in Spain. Very, very unusual. I mean, I would think that my students are laughing if they would call me Dr. Leiva. But in the United States,
Yeah.
that was every single day. Dr. Leiva here, Dr. Leiva there. And I was like, who is this? I mean, is this me?
Yeah.
It was pretty
Yeah.
shocking. But
Yeah.
well. it's that way
Cultural
of
background itself
yeah,
really influences how people think, and also how do we behave and treat people, especially
exactly.
those people in authorities that we really say those titles, and also the ma'am and sir that we used to hear way back home.
Yeah. And it also teaches you things because from then to now, when I talk to my students about another teacher, I always use doctor, doctor whoever, doctor whatever. Even though
Mm,
I know they're not gonna call this teacher doctor, but at least from the academic side, I try to use this to use it to I don't know, to promote this atmosphere of academic lifestyle and roles and this stuff. And it's a cultural change, let's say.
mm,
It's a different way of seeing things. But anyway, I always get amazed with these stories when I hear stories from people moving away from such a long distance, such a different
yeah,
countries and going up to Oulu in Finland from the Philippines.
yeah,
It has to
yeah,
be really really
yeah,
a teaching experience for sure,
yeah.
a learning experience. Sorry, and you have, as you said, you have done research also in the clinical learning environment and
Mm, yeah,
related to the international students and we see many international students who are brilliant academically, but they struggle during their placements.
yeah.
Based on your data, based on your knowledge, what is the make or break factor? And I would also say, why do some students thrive while
Mm.
others feels isolated or even fail?
Yeah, that is really a good question, because when we talk about clinical learning environments for international students in Finland, there's something that we need to name openly. So there is an ethical dilemma built into the system itself.
Yeah.
So Finland now has both English language nursing programs and also Finnish language programs. And recently we have bilingual
Oh.
nursing programs, international programs, so where students need to learn the substance of the nursing, and then at the same time they integrate the Finnish language
Mhm.
aspect, and also increasingly hybrid programs that promise Finnish language integration. And on paper, that sounds ideal, but
Yeah.
in practice, it creates for many students, especially those with no prior nursing background, really challenge, like as you mentioned. And imagine being a student who arrives in Finland with so many dreams, so many hopes. Oh, this is the happiest country in the world, and I will be part soon of the healthcare system, and I will become a registered nurse. And in the classroom, they're learning nursing concepts. Let's say, for example, pathophysiology, medication safety, and all in English in the first year. And at the same time, we integrate the Finnish language. And as you know, that the Finnish language is one of the uh, challenging, I would say, one of the difficult languages in the world,
Yes.
and not just basic Finnish, but the kind of that is needed for clinical communication, and also that where students can make safe decisions, and also reports and documentation, and also of course patient interaction, so you can make uh, right assessments during the practice. So the student is learning the substance of nursing in English in the first year, and then the language of the workplace is in Finnish language, and the culture of healthcare in a third way, let's say through behavior expectations, hierarchy, and safety norms. All of this happen in Finnish language. So when the student learns the English, and then they also thrive to learn the Finnish language in the classroom, so they try to understand both concepts. And then when they try to go to the clinical practicum, they're also looking for those words. How
Mm.
should I say it? How should I be assessed? Do I understand what mentors really say? So basically, it's like it's a triple curriculum running simultaneously. So if a student already has a nursing background, this is challenging but also doable. But if a student comes with no prior nursing education, they are learning the profession and the language and the cultural communication patterns from the scratch. And if you think about this, it's a huge cognitive load, I think I should say.
Yes, it
And in the
is.
clinical practicum, Finnish is it's just the currency of survival. So you need to understand the patient's needs. You need it to chart. You need it to follow instructions in fast-moving environments, and you just need to keep up with the pace of care. And so even if a student excels academically in English, or the student's really good, he knows how to explain things and the English language, but the part where they need to also explain it in Finnish language, that's where they strive. Even though we try to integrate, we give them vocabularies, we have Finnish language teachers in between before they go to the clinical practicum itself. And mentors expect students to speak Finnish quickly, almost like locals, and it's understandable. So of course, patient safety matters, but the expectation itself is, I should say, unrealistic, because Finnish is really, if you research about Finnish language, there's no, how do you say that, like uh, the language that is similar to other countries. So it has its own unique means of studying it and also learning it, how to say it. It takes time, repetition, immersion, and support. And you cannot really expect someone who has, let's say, lived here for 6 months or 1 year to communicate like someone who has spoken, let's say, Finnish language for 25 years. Even
Yeah.
I know people who has been living here for quite some time and they couldn't still uh, speak the language perfectly. So
Yeah.
there are so many factors here, like emotional burden, cognitive load, and
Sure.
expectations from the community and the mentors themselves. If you think about when a mentor expects too much from you, so that they let you learn the nursing concept fast, but at the same time the language itself. But if
It's
we have that kind of community that where everyone is welcome to learn the language without so much pressure, then I think we can get a really good multicultural uh, workforce in
yeah.
the healthcare
Yeah.
field.
At the end, it's like a team, but it has to be really hard because you are learning in English, but you have to apply it in Finnish.
Mm.
So it's like a double or triple extra workload,
Mm.
as you said. Yeah, it has to be challenging. It reminds me to here in Barcelona we speak Spanish, but we speak Catalan as well, which is
Yeah, yeah.
another language. It's quite similar, but for those who are not Spanish, they say that it's very difficult. And 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 I have students coming from outside Barcelona, and they all when sometimes they complain, and it's like, but why? I mean, it's quite similar, but it's not. For them it's not
Yeah,
similar.
yeah.
So they have to make this extra effort of learning
Mm.
in Catalan, applying into Catalan, because most of the people here speak Catalan. So it's like an extra burden. Yeah, yeah, it
Or
has
is
to
there
be.
also a language barrier
Yeah,
if one access, for example, the healthcare system in Catalan, would they also experience those challenges? For example,
sure.
if one, yeah.
Yeah, 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 for sure. At the end, it's a barrier. I mean, the good thing is that at the end it comes from the same like linguistic roots. So it's it's
Mm.
it's quite similar. It's like for example, Spanish or Italian at the end, or Portuguese. It's quite similar, but Filipino to Finnish is, I mean, it's like two different words. And
Yeah, two
English,
different language. Yeah,
yeah, and English and Finnish is also two different languages, very, very, very different. So wow,
yeah,
I cannot imagine the extra effort the students and also the mentors, the faculty, they also have to make this extra effort of integrating
yeah,
all
exactly.
this pathway and the expectations, the results, etc. Wow,
Yeah, and
congratulations.
and going back to your question about the failing or the point of fail, the student failure in clinical practicum is not just an educational issue. It's also a workforce issue. So when we lose international nursing students, Finland also loses future registered nurses that the
Exactly.
healthcare system desperately needs. You know, Finland is aging, and the population itself cannot produce enough nurses. So it's not self-sufficient. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a reliance on either the recruitment of international nursing students to educate them as nurses, or recruiting internationally educated nurses from the developing countries. So the question becomes that are we preparing the students to fail, or are we preparing the system to support them? So this is really important for the Finnish
Ah,
society to ponder, because we wanted those students to stay in Finland. But if the society, the clinical practice placements are not ready, are not welcoming enough for the students, then we will lose talents where we educate them for 3 to 3.5 years. And we spend so much time and effort to, for example, organize practice placements. We arrange intensive Finnish language courses. So the resources and energy just used by other countries.
it's almost like an ethical issue in investing efforts, money, and yeah, resources to, let's say, if they let's wait to if they stay or if they go away or they go to another country. So at the end, it's yeah, you need to have all this workforce. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can
it's
I
really
can I
important
can
that.
I can imagine this kind of dual uh, thinking, no, like I'm trying to do the best, but I don't know if they will stay, if they will move, and if they fail, what are we gonna do? So yeah, it looks complicated. And moving forward, um, Europe. I mean, I hope most of our listeners know, but Europe is recruiting heavily from abroad right now. But
Mm,
we are asking these nurses to integrate,
mm.
uh, not just or to assimilate. Uh, what do you think? I mean, are we asking them to integrate or are we asking to assimilate?
Mm.
And and what would you say is the main difference of integration or assimilation?
Yeah, assimilation says like become like us to belong. But
Uh-huh.
if you say integration, it's like belong with us while keeping who you are, because it improves our care. So you're bringing the culture. You wanted to retain your own culture, but also accepting the culture where you are working as a registered nurse. So assimilation, becoming like us to belong, while integration is belong with us while keeping who you are as a person,
Exactly.
as a
Hmm.
registered nurse, because that kind of care is what we wanted to give to patients, and also respecting their cultural background itself. And you mentioned about cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence is the bridge. It's not just a workshop. So it's a management practice. If I were coaching nurse leaders, for example, I have some few tips to them. So first, show visible curiosity. So leaders should ask, for example, what do you wish we understood about how you learned nursing? Then incorporate it into shift handovers or learning plans. And then second is map the differences that matter clinically. So documentation styles, escalation norms, who decides when. And also you can run pre-briefs for complex days. So, and here's where language let's say slow us down. Here's where we preposition support. So it's like a cultural intelligence is also logistics too.
Yeah. And also, as someone with roots from the Philippines, how do you view the ethics of this current migration wave? How how do we balance this desperate need for nurses in Europe with the risk, of course, of brain drain in
Mm.
the countries they have left behind? Because at the end, it's like an ethical issue as well. They're moving from their countries to incorporate in a new one, but they're leaving.
Yeah.
empty spaces there.
Yeah, and I just recently published a policy analysis at the
Mm-hmm.
International Nursing Review. So my topic was international recruitment and nursing shortage in the Nordic region, and we analyzed the recruitment itself, the ethical implications using
Yes.
the global code of practice and the international recruitment of health personnel. So it's actually coming up soon, and so
Oh,
I will share the link to you and also to our listeners. Maybe it can be
oh
also
yes.
linked in the website. And the recruitment itself has actually raised some alarms from leaders, also from Nordic countries. And because there is also shortage of, I mean, nursing workforce in the Philippines in healthcare facilities. So there is overproduction of nurses in the Philippines, but the government could not hire or recruit those nurses to all healthcare facilities. So the option of this of the Filipino nurses is to really go abroad to
Mm-hmm.
seek for greener pasture. But the problem there is there are several key ethical issues that could possibly arise in the recruitment. And
Yes.
there are, of course, for example, instances where recruitment agencies were asking for multiple service fees and also IENs having limited understanding of the contracts that they were actually signing. I just had a conversation with few nurses who have had problems with their contracts last
Oh,
2 weeks ago. And some nurses, when I asked them, did you actually understand what you have uh, signed in the contract? And they say, we
no.
no, we don't really totally understand. And then
Oh,
when they move to the country, they are also signing another contract. And when I ask, did you totally understand what you have actually signed? And they also say, we didn't really totally understand that.
oh.
And as I told you, when I did my research, the first batch who came to Finland were actually recruited as registered nurses. And then it came into the path where the next batches were actually recruited as nursing assistants. So upon
Mm-hmm.
arrival, there's already this scaling. So where nurses perform the tasks below their competence. So even those experienced registered nurses are put in a practical nursing programs and then first hired as care assistants. So we lose the skills that they had already in the Philippines when they moved on a new country. And because of this, the risk also of labor exploitation is high.
Yeah, yeah.
And trafficking alone are and the existing laws on labor and exploitation and trafficking alone are insufficient. So we need to the recruiting countries should think about implementing laws and also, I should say, monitoring the list of recruitment actors or recruitment agencies who can only recruit internationally educated nurses. This means that they have to follow the principles of the World Health Organization or the Global Code of Practice, which I was speaking a while ago. And then when this are followed, when this is monitored by the government agencies, and so we can ensure that the pathway for IENs is safe for them. And
Yeah.
this is actually a surprise for many people. So when they think about Nordic countries, oh, it's really nice, it's beautiful, one of the happiest and
Mm-hmm.
the best uh, social and education system. But when it comes to recruitment, there are so many things to improve. So that really urged me when I studied master's and then PhD later to pursue the path of research and bring some new evidence that we need to improve the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
So
job.
we
Good.
cannot afford to lose talents when they work.
No, yeah, yeah, it's true. And good for you, good for giving some evidence and some light to the topic. Do you think something is gonna be done for regulating this? I mean, are you optimistic?
I am optimistic. Yeah, I
Good,
think
good.
compared to the time when I moved uh, more than 10 years ago, 12 years now already. And so I was thinking that there has been many changes also happening in the Finnish system. For example, the implementation of top-up education programs. There, almost all universities have that programs, and those kind of programs that would really cater the needs of internationally educated nurses, so they can be licensed registered nurses. And also several projects have been piloted
Good.
uh, to really recognize the education previously of those nurses recruited, but still there is space for improvement.
Improvement.
And uh, in Finland, when you think about Finland, there's always need to have some kind of funding when before implementing things. So maybe it should be a multi-stakeholder cooperation.
Mhm.
I should say that because in my PhD dissertation, one of the suggestions is that when you are recruiting internationally educated nurses who have years of experience, so the licensing pathway should already start way back home,
Oh.
even though there is language requirement from the authorities. So when you hire um, international educated nurse, then the process of submission of the documents to the regulating agencies should start. Because at the moment you're waiting for the document itself, then you are also learning the Finnish language. So it's
Mhm.
all required from IENs.
Yeah.
And language itself also differs from where you are recruited. So I heard also that some agencies only give online training, which
Uh-huh.
is part-time. So how can you learn the difficult language, which is online and part-time? And
No.
some agencies also train them in person in 6 months. So there's also inequality when it comes to giving a Finnish education language. And I have followed those paths from recruited nurses. So when they move and they have a weak Finnish language in the preliminary migration, it can be seen when they're working in the field, and also when they start to work. When they start to study to become a registered nurse, then they are also experiencing challenges when they do their clinical practicums because of a weak language
Mm.
level.
Yeah.
So many
Wow.
factors to consider.
You have a big topic there for studying and for collecting new data and providing new evidence because this is a hot topic. I mean, there are many,
It
many
is.
consequences and especially I think it's a very important topic because of the ethical consequences that this can have
Mm,
in terms of employment, exploitation,
mm.
etc. So you really have a topic, and I'm sure we will hear more about your research.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Cubelo, I think we have come to an end. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for sharing your expertise. You have reminded us that hiring a nurse is easy, but making them feel they belong takes
Mm.
a real work, and it's a long journey. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation, and thank you so much for this more than half an hour.
Yeah.
It's been really an honor to have
Mm.
you here at ETNAtalks.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Juan, for inviting me to Etna podcast. It's been a pleasure to discuss this topic in a European level.
Thank you so much, and to our listeners, thank you for tuning to ETNAtalks. And if you're not a member of ETNA, please register for free at our website. I am Juan Leiva. See you in the next episode.